Hello everyone and welcome to Varo Enthusiast. Here's what's coming up. Goole high in spirits and their freshly manufactured and well-crafted trains prepare to enter service. Joint Chief Executive of Siemens Mobility, Sambit Banjeree says, "This is truly exciting milestone not just for us but the industry and local economies." Also ahead, Anti-Ulez backlash sparked mass protests across London streets and harm to many cameras on our streets. Amid the Mayor of London's spokesperson warning, the Mayor has been clear that the decision to expand the ultra-low emission zone in London was not an easy decision but necessary to tackle toxic air pollution. And finally, the London Overground, a new 6.3 million revamp set to transform the line and set for a rich history of relishing in British heritage. Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Varo Enthusiast in London, and tonight we talk about the new trains which are being built in Goole, Anti-Ulez backlash which has been sparked by the Mayor of London's comments where he says that he's not going to change anything about it, and also the London Overground 6.3 million revamp which is set to transform the line and its rich future which is relishing in British heritage. But first, we start off in Goole, where Siemens Mobility are looking to build more Piccadilly line trains and also look to build more trains which are on the London network. So, here's where we're starting off. Goole Trains, a factory in East Yorkshire which built most of the Piccadilly line trains, Siemens Mobility said that its Goole factory, which is due to open in spring, would produce 80% of trains for the Piccadilly line, up from 50% previously announced. They're expected to enter service in 2025, which Siemens has said, and the factory forms part of the town's 200 million rail village, which was first announced in 2018. Sambit Banjeree, the Joint Chief Executive of Siemens Mobility, has said, "This is a truly exciting milestone not just for us but the industry and local economies. The fact that we were increasing the amount of Piccadilly line tube trains being built in Goole is a testament of our manufacturing capabilities. The first Piccadilly line train, which was built in Vienna and is undergoing testing by engineers in Germany, the trains have been designed to improve accessibility and are more energy efficient," the company said. Stuart Harvey, the Chief Capital Officer at Transport for London, TfL, said, "Producing more Piccadilly line trains in Goole will support local supply chains, clearly demonstrating how investment in London benefits the whole of the UK." Officials at TfL have said the Goole factory would produce a new fleet of Bakerloo line trains once government funding is confirmed. The rail village includes a service of facility, logistics, warehouses and a development hub. Siemens Mobility said that it would establish the area as a centre of excellence for the UK rail technology, creating up to 700 jobs, and a further 1,700 jobs will be created in the supply chain that he added onto. And now we talk about the Anti-Ulez protests. The Anti-Ulez campaigners block every camera in the London borough. The protesters blocked around 80 cameras in Sutton yesterday on Sunday, allowing non-complaint vehicles to drive through the borough for free. A small number of Ulez opponents prevented about 80 enforcement cameras recording the number plates of the vehicles that failed to comply with Sadiq Khan's clear air zone. The protest, involving about 20 people, lasted for 3 hours in Sutton on Sunday afternoon. Signs were placed in front of the CCTV cameras to temporarily obstruct their view. A Met spokesperson said the protests passed peacefully and no arrests were made at the incident. Up to 30 cameras in Sutton were thought to have been previously vandalised or removed by more militant campaigners. Kingsley Hamilton of the Action Against Unfair Ulez claimed TfL was unable to enforce the Ulez across the South London borough for several hours yesterday. He told the Telegraph, quote, "Every single camera in the borough is either deactivated or being covered with a placard." Further protests are planned at Biggin Hill on Saturday the 17th of February, Welling Corner in Bexley on February 20th, Chequers Corner in Dagenham February 24th, and Hillingdon Hospital for 6 days from the 25th of February, and Five Ways Wadden in Croydon on March. Transport for London users more than 2,000 cameras to check whether vehicles are non-compliant or compliant with their new rule. The non-compliant vehicles have to pay £12.50 daily. Those that fail to pay will face an £180 fine. Mr. Hamilton, whose 2-year-old son requires hospital treatment for a rare disorder that causes lung infection, said protesters feared that the Ulez would be replaced with a pay-per-mile road charging scheme. He told Sky News, "Ulez is only the thin end. The wage pay-per-mile is coming if Sadiq Khan gets another term in office. We are quite sure of that. So we are hoping we don't give Sadiq Khan for another 4 years." However, Mr. Sadiq Khan has ruled out replacing the Ulez with a pay-per-mile scheme, saying that there is no technology currently available to charge drivers according to the distance travelled and time of day. He said, quote, "It's not going to happen to my watch," he told the London Assembly last month. "The pay-per-mile scheme is not on my radar. It is not on the table. It is not something I am going to do." Sadiq Khan expanded the Ulez to cover every London borough in August last year. The Sutton Council fiercely opposed the decision to expand the zone, and a petition was signed by thousands and thousands of people calling for its rollout to be delayed. Mr. Hamilton continued by saying, quote, "Even people who have compliant cars have to fork out and get unaffordable loans to buy these compliant cars. So it's all very well saying that people have compliant cars now, but they've still got that loan to pay off. That loan that they didn't get during a cost of living crisis," he added. He also says, "Some of the cameras in the borough have already been deactivated. Obviously, that has nothing to do with us. We are not condoning any criminal activity." Protesters have been chopping down Ulez cameras to protest the scheme, and one camera was blown up by an improvised explosive device in Sidcup last December. And on your screen now, you can see one of the cameras which was broken in Sidcup during that time, around February. And a Met officer spokesperson has said that police are aware of the Rose Hill roundabout in Sutton today, where the protests had passed peacefully and no arrests were made. The group have now left the area. However, the spokesperson for the Mayor of London has said the vast majority of vehicles, 95% of them seen driving in the ultra-low emission zone on an average day, are already compliant and will not have to pay a penny. The Mayor has been clear that the decision to expand the Ulez zones in London was not an easy one, but necessary to tackle air pollution, which is leading to children growing up with stunted lungs and thousands of people in our city developing life-changing illnesses such as cancer, lung disease, dementia and asthma. Causing criminal damage is an absolutely unacceptable, and all incidents of ULEZ cameras and vandalism are reported to the police for investigation, with damaged or destroyed cameras swiftly being replaced. Criminal damage will not stop the ULEZ operating. It could endanger the safety of vandals and the public. And from that incident, you can see the cameras and what went on during the anti-ULEZ protest, which went on during that point. Here's the clip from Sky News.
Where what at least organisers claim is the biggest action of its kind yet against ULEZ cameras is well underway. You can see beside me here there are around maybe a couple of dozen protesters, but crucially there are many more like them right across the borough. They say they're targeting somewhere in the region of 100 ULEZ cameras across the borough, covering them up for 3 hours and giving what the organisers call freedom to the people of London for that 3-hour period. We're also joined, you may have noticed, by some fairly large fire engines. The significance of those is to highlight what the organisers say are inconsistencies in the ULEZ scheme. So this one particularly is from 1937. You can probably imagine not exactly a clean engine, but it's exempt from ULEZ because it's considered a historic and classic vehicle. And I have to say, given you can probably hear them, the honking, the number of cars honking their support as they go past, it's some indication that these people have some support, if not considerable support, in the wider public. And earlier, though, I spoke to the organiser at Kingsley Hamilton, and I put to him that, well, look, ULEZ has been operational now for several years. It's not going anywhere. The cameras are all in place. Is he aware that he's fighting something of a losing battle?
To a certain extent, people have sort of given up hope. They've got compliant vehicles, but obviously they still feel hard done by because they're in debt buying those compliant vehicles. So they're still paying those debts and they're very cross about it. So they're not thinking, oh, well, I'm compliant, I'm okay now. They're thinking, I'm compliant and I've got this unaffordable loan that I've got to pay off for the next 8 years. So people are still angry. You may be right, but the thing is, ULEZ is only the thin end of the wedge. We are so fearful that pay per mile is coming up. But the cameras for ULEZ have been paid for with ULEZ, but they are needed for pay per mile. So pay per mile is coming. If Sadiq Khan gets another term in office, we're quite sure of that. So we're hoping that we won't have Sadiq Khan for another 4 years. But we want him to listen.
So they're hoping it will become an election issue in a mayoral election year, but it would take some Herculean effort to dislodge Sadiq Khan's 20-point lead in the polls.
OK, Matthew, great stuff. Thank you very much.
Matthew Thompson there reporting that anti-ULEZ protest for us there. And here's another clip from another anti-ULEZ protest, which was in Trafalgar Square from The Independent. Here's the clip.
Go around the wheel, going round, yeah, they can do it, so much better over there. But they're putting up quick, aren't they? Really quick. If you need like a massive amnesty, walk up down at one end, and then
Our report there from The Independent on another anti-ULEZ protest. And finally tonight, the London Overground set to receive a 6.3 million revamp, which is set to relish in British heritage. The London Overground is set to see 6 new lines introduced, and here's where we will talk about it. The revamp will see 6 new lines introduced, which include the following: the Liberty Line, the Lioness Line, the Mild May Line, the Suffragette Line, the Weaver Line, and finally the Windrush Line. Tenders for the Transport for London 6.3 London Overhaul will go live later this year, with 113 stations and 6 lines requiring total new signage. Prince Week spoke to TfL's head of design, John Hunter, to find out more on this. On the 15th of February, TfL unveiled its plans to transform the Overground's network. The rebranding, due to the completion by the end of 2024, will see the Overground's complex existing network of rail lines simplified to 6 distinguished lines, coloured lines which are named after historic events or landmarks of each area. The Overground network has so far been uniformly represented in bright orange since the inception in 2007. Extended to East London in 2010, South London in 2012, and further into North London in 2015, it has grown into an orange spaghetti, proven by TfL's own research to confuse passengers. Hunter said the 2015 extension was a tipping point. We had created a network which had overlaid in places and it started to become confusing. It had reached the point where we needed that separation, and we needed it especially for real-time updates. Travel disruption on the Overground, a not infrequent occurrence, has so far had to rely on customers being able to identify the Overground's routes in their head and pin down which stations bookended this disruption. On a network with 113 stations, this could prove difficult. Now, by splitting the lines, we have made a very similar approach to the tube station system. You may have a specific line and you're using it to plan your journey. If you never take the Mildmay line and only take the Weaver, you know which will impact your journey, Hunter said. And on top of it, here's what the Mayor of London himself, Sadiq Khan, had to say on the new London Overground revamp. Here's what he said.
I'm really excited to be announcing 6 distinct lines now have 6 distinct names, 6 distinct colours, and we know, look, the London Overground is now a massive success. 3 million passengers use these lines every week. We've now got 6 different lines, 113 stations. Finding your way around the London Overground is a nightmare. So making it easier to wayfind, making it easier to go from Croydon to Enfield. What we've done is we've engaged with customers, with local communities, with historians, with industry experts to get the 6 best possible names, and I'm incredibly proud to have announced them today. Yeah, we've looked at sponsorship and other issues as well. The key thing was to make sure the lines have a link with the communities they are from. So we have got deals now in relation to sponsoring individual stations for a certain time of the year. We're looking at other ways of maximising incomes through the property we have, the surplus property we have, advertising space. We have deals in individual stations, most recently at Bond Street Station. We're going to carry on exploring other links with the private sector. I recently announced a trial for 3 months for TfL to explore around off-peak Fridays. We'll be speaking to the private sector there as well. The budget for these name changes will come within the TfL budget, but the important thing is the benefits to communities getting their way about these stations.
Hunter then went on to say, to keep costs as affordable as possible and proportionate, we haven't increased the size of the signs, explains Hunter. We're just hanging the front vitreous of our panels. Not necessarily overly complex, but it means that every single sign has been reworked on. As another cost-saving device, TfL has rolled out the printing of much of its collateral into using its biannual reprint. Its 4,500 quad-roll AO maps, quite a distinct heritage size, rail and tube maps, and 4 million pocket tube maps are usually printed every 6 months, with the rebrand timed to coincide with its normal order. Interior train signage printed on fire-resistant panels will also go up for tender. All tenders will live through TfL's dedicated broker, Corporate Document Services. With deals with much of the public sector print in Greater London Authority, tenders will be available on the dedicated CDS portal at least 3 months before each project is delivered, with the rebrand due for completion by the end of 2024. Hunter then went on to say, quote, "This is the biggest challenge we've faced. It's potentially one of the biggest re-signing exercises ever done in a live network environment, definitely in contemporary times. The Elizabeth, DLR or Jubilee line jobs paled in comparison, according to Hunter, as they were isolated to a single line, or in the case of the Elizabeth line, a line was not yet live. In order to not confuse travellers, TfL have determined to execute the entire rebrand over 48 to 72 hours. He then went on to say, quote, "And we have to do this in such a way that people using it on a Friday will use the same network on a Monday, with everything working better than it did before. Think of hundreds of thousands of passengers that were moving. The choreography of this is pretty extreme. After the launch, but we've revealed, thinking at least that part's done. The delivery is 99% of the project. Most of the signage will be installed prior to D-Day, with the enamel signs covered up and tagged on a digitally printed adhesive wrap ready for the reveal. It's still quite the task, but the team is confident, according to Hunter. The rebrand needs to make the London Overground better, and our suppliers are definitely up for the job. We have a really good team of project and program managers looking for the logistics, doing trial runs, timing exercises, and doing Amazon-style tests. How many stations a vehicle can visit at night so that everything is done as efficiently, quickly, and safely as possible." And that is it for now. If you ever miss our show, remember you can always catch us online and across all our social media platforms on YouTube, Twitter, and on Flickr. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye from London.
Raider.